Hello, Vanessa, Aminata, Melissa, Jennifer, Joanne, Veronica, Danielle, Beth, Tiffany, Ruth, Candice, Bambi, Christina, Nicole, Ariana, Maria, Letitia, Amanda, Gazelle, Natalia, and Joe. Thank you for another excellent week of conversation, at least conversation in print or on screen print in our discussion forums. Appreciate your diligence and your willingness to explore different possibilities. We started off with what is perhaps one of the keys of acting ethically and being an ethical leadership that Joanne, Candice, and Jennifer pointed out in the first exchange. See something, say something. And I think that's an important point. If we see something that, if it feels wrong, if it looks wrong, if there's a situation that makes us feel uncomfortable or that somebody is being treated unfairly or unjustly, we need to say something. And of course, the first possibility in a situation like that is to say something to the person who seems to be doing something wrong. And many of you started there. Many of you started with, I would talk to Karen. I would say something to Karen. I would try to help her to understand that what she was doing looked unethical, that it looked problematic, that it could cause problems for the company. And that is that is a great place to start. And Danielle even said that she would make sure of what the reason was for Karen Johnson's actions before advancing beyond having a conversation with Karen, that would be important to try to figure out, is this really discrimination? Now, a lot of us said clearly Dean is the only openly gay male. Sylvia is the only person of color, the only African American person at the organization. This looks like discrimination. It certainly looks that way on the surface. But is it possible that it could be something else? I mean, Sylvia didn't use a racial epithet. She didn't use a slur against the LGBTQ community. So could it be something else? It could be. As I said in the discussion forum, it could just be that she just doesn't like these two people for some reason that is unknown to us. And even though that's still an illegitimate reason to look to fire them, even though that's still unethical, even though it still is wrong, it is in a different category than if she is acting in a way that is based on their racial identity or their sexual orientation. Those things are not only unethical, but they're also illegal, and that puts things in a different category. And I would say probably for most of us, if it's the scenario that I hypothetically described, that Sylvia and Dean, they started at the company at the same time. They're good friends. They joke around a lot. They still get their jobs done. They're still very effective, but they're kind of casual with each other. They laugh a lot. And Karen doesn't like that. That's not her image of how our customer service department should operate. It should be serious. People shouldn't be joking around. That's just not the way that she rolls. And so she doesn't like them and she wants to get rid of them. I would say that's still unethical. That's still wrong. They're still performing well. So she doesn't have any just cause to fire them. And there's another piece of the puzzle too. This is a unionized workforce, and almost every union contract has a clause that says the company cannot fire employees except for just cause. It kind of is the opposite end of at-will employment. At-will employment, the employer can let you go just because it's Thursday, and Thursday is the day I decided to fire people. You're fired, and you have nothing to say. But under most union contracts, you can only be disciplined or terminated for just cause. And that's why Karen Johnson wants you to keep a log. She wants to find some reason to fire Dean and Sylvia. And some of you said outright, no, I'm not going to do that. Keeping a log just on 2 employees is unethical. It's singling out these 2 people, and it does smack of discrimination based on Sylvia's race and Dean's sexual orientation. So that's a no-go. And I think that's a legitimate answer, to have that conversation with Karen and say, Karen, they seem to be, you said they were performing acceptably, but you're asking me to find a reason to fire them. And the situation is, these are the only, Sylvia is the only African American, Dean's the only openly gay male. It doesn't look good for us. Can you help me understand what's going on here? And again, maybe that conversation goes nowhere, but maybe it's a wake-up call for Karen. Another possible direction is to bring up the union and say, I understand what you're asking me to do here, Karen, but as you know, we're a unionized workforce. And if I'm just picking on Dean and Sylvia, the union's going to push back. That could just be a nightmare. Do we really want to do this? Well, some others of you said, if Karen asks to do that, well, sure, I'll document things. And Vanessa says, yeah, I'll document things. I will document their performance, that it's acceptable, that they're doing a fine job, and that's going to be my report. Somebody else said that I would just keep a log of everybody, both the good and the bad, on everybody. Here you go, Karen. Looks like everybody's really doing pretty well. Or actually, Sylvia and Dean are doing great, but Joe, not so much, according to the metrics that we judge performance by. That's another possibility. And Bambi and a couple other people said, they would document their interactions with Karen as well. Keep an email trail of all these conversations with Karen, what she wants, what she's asking for, why she's asking for it, so that if it does get to the point where you have to go to HR, or you have to go to the board, or you even have to go to the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission to report things, to report discrimination, then you have documentation, you have a paper or email trail that says these are the things that happened, this was what was requested, these are the times and dates, so that when you make a presentation, there's convincing evidence. I think it was Ruth that mentioned she knew of someone who had to document behavior of a CEO, and when they documented it, when they had a set of this is what happened, and they went to a board, the board was, okay, well, this person has to go. And even though Karen is a favorite of the board, if you have documentation, if you have a set of facts that's backed up by records and witnesses, that might be enough. But I think that the hope here is that a conversation with Karen might actually be fruitful. We don't have a whole lot of information here. If Karen had used racial epithets and words that were discriminatory against people in the LGBTQ community, then okay, well, there's probably nothing we can do about that. That's going to have to be, how do we document this? Report it to HR, report it to the board, maybe even have to report it to the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission. Maybe that's the only thing that we can do. But it's a little grayer here. And maybe Karen doesn't realize how bad this looks. I don't know. But as several of you said, Bambi and Beth and several others said, if we can give people a little bit of the benefit of the doubt until they have proven themselves to be to have evil motives and to be acting completely unethically, there is the possibility that we can interact with them and engage them and move them in a better direction. And as ethical leaders, I think that is one of the things that we do. It's not just that we have high standards. It's not just that we do the right thing. It's not just that we are looking out for people and making sure that they are treated fairly and that injustice is remedied or better yet prevented, but that the people who are going off in a wrong direction, that we as ethical leaders are able to engage with them and hopefully, at least in some circumstances, we're able to turn them back into acting in a more ethical way. That's real ethical leadership. And I invite you to consider that, to consider the good influence that you can have on so many people. I really appreciate, again, all of your conversation, all of your honesty. This was a great discussion forum. And if there's any way that I could be helpful to you as we go into our last week of class, please reach out to me. Let me know. I would be happy to have conversation or help you in any way that I could. Thanks again.